Hey, my lovely goal-getters. Welcome to the Moms Making Money Show. I'm your host, Amie Pederson, business mentor and confidence coach for the emerging boss mom. It's my mission to help amazing women just like you up-level yourself and your business because you are meant for more than wiping boogers and folding laundry. I'm also a wife, mother, urban farmer, influencer, green juice enthusiast, and an unapologetic lover of cowboy boots. I can't wait to help you grow your business by sharing my tips, tricks, proven business strategy, experience, and incredible guests. Hang on tight and enjoy the show. This episode is brought to you by ButcherBox. This is an amazing service of being able to skip the store and spend more time on what's really important, our families. This is a company that I use to get my meat delivered, free delivery, right to my front door. Every single box that I get every month is made specifically based on my customization. I get to pick everything that goes in there. And I get to do so confidently knowing that 100% of my animal protein is coming from 100% grass-fed and grass-finished beef, heritage breed pork, and free-range organic chicken. All of it is amazing. I also love knowing that none of these animals are ever given hormones or antibiotics. I love that they have partnered with small farms and that they're able to deliver this meat to us for less than $6 a meal. Plus, it's always free shipping. And the way that they're able to save us money is because they're skipping the middleman. They're skipping the store. So all of that markup that we typically see on grass-fed and grass-finished products and organic chicken and sustainably raised meat and animal proteins, all of that has been removed because everything comes straight from them to your front door. And it's super important to me as an animal lover, as somebody who lives on a little mini farm myself, that all of these animal proteins have been naturally and responsibly raised and fed. This is a huge deal for me, but it also makes the quality of the meat so much better. We get tons and tons of compliments every time we prepare a meal for somebody else, as well as just loving it ourselves. We've used ButcherBox for our Thanksgiving turkey, as well as the prime rib for Christmas, and we just love it. So if you want to give it a try, use coupon code AP10, like Amie Pederson 10, and they'll give you $10 off your first box, as well as they'll give you a free package of bacon in your order. All right, everybody. Today I've got my friend Alyssa Dillon on, and you guys, we have been waiting. I feel like it seems like forever to bring you this episode and do this interview. I am so excited. So buckle up and get ready for one hell of a ride. We are going to have so much fun today. So my friend Alyssa, she is actually like becoming famously known as an online business coach and a profit strategist for helping more and more digital entrepreneurs launch and scale their businesses online. She herself is a multiple six-figure business founder who most recently created a proven program, you guys. Proven programs are the best, and system that allows the virtual business owner to not only create their own unique business model, but to launch it successfully to six figures without leaving the comfort of their laptops, or as we were just talking about before we went live, is basically sitting there with your dry shampoo and coffee as your life fuel.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Tell us a little bit about you and a little bit about what on earth made you decide to take this crazy ride.
I know, right? So Alyssa J. Dillon, as you said, I come from small town dreams, and I was one of the first people in my family to go to college, and I just kind of always knew that I was a high achiever. One of my biggest fears in life is just not accomplishing enough, not seeing enough, not doing enough, and being scared of like, what if I don't get everything done that I want to do?
Right.
But I've actually found that like there's never enough. Like I just keep setting the bar higher for myself. So it's just this fun game we play with ourselves. So yeah, I jumped into entrepreneurship out of necessity. Basically, I realized that I couldn't work for other people. I had a really hard time dealing with like authority and somebody being my boss. And I had 2 kids. And so it would really stress me out when I'd be like, well, listen, my kids have doctor's appointments. And I had a boss that was like, well, you took off last week. And I'm like, yeah, I know, but I still have these kids and I happen to be their mom. So I started this business out of necessity and I had no idea what I was getting into. I had a couple people tell me how hard it was going to be and kind of like the negative talk of like, well, you're going to have to convince people to hire you versus somebody else. And I was like, yeah, I should be able to do it. And it was hard. It was very hard, but I figured it out. And that's kind of been my motto for all of this is I figure shit out. Like I do it. And
Right.
So here I am.
I love that. And I feel like moms are so resourceful, like, because I bet that maybe 95% of the people who are moms listening to this who have ever had to tell their boss, like, hey, I need another day off. Mm-hmm. Not only did they walk into that conversation, like with their shoulders rolled forward and their head, hanging just a little bit, riddled with guilt, like guilt coming from both sides, like mom guilt, like, shit, I have to be there for my kids. My boss is about to be pissed off at me. And then riddled with that guilt of my boss is about to be pissed off at me, but I have to be there for my kids, coming from every angle. And then they're like, look, dude, I've got to take off, today, my kids, or they call in, my kid's sick again. And, luckily for me, like I didn't have that problem. My boss was super understanding and was a parent and a grandparent and was like, yeah, no problem. And I think also too, he knew I'd work from home back in the day when I had one of those bosses. Yeah. Now my boss is a 2-year-old tyrant, but so I think a lot of people are like, yeah, girl, I feel you on that. Because even if you have a cool boss, like I had a cool boss and I still had that guilt, like, shit, I got to ask again, but my kid's sick. So what do you do? And, nowadays people don't always stay living in the same community as their parents or grandparents or aunts and uncles or, what I mean? So it's not like, it's not like 1956 when you're like, oh, grandma's going to come watch you. It's not like that anymore. Just it's impossible.
Absolutely. And, I think the big like differentiator for me was I had a 1-year-old and then I had a baby. Like my boys are Irish twins. Both their birthdays are in March. And so having Irish twin boys, like I couldn't ask somebody else to watch them. My mom luckily watched my oldest son for an entire year while I worked. But then when I had my second baby and I wanted to nurse him also because I didn't have a lot of success with that with my first son, I was like, man, I can't see myself going back into this environment. And I tried it for a little bit and it got to the point where I felt like I wasn't good at anything. I was a bad mom because I couldn't manage these 2 babies. Which I mean, having Irish twins, like that's who can actually do that successfully. There's probably some women out there and like, that's amazing. I was not that mom who was like, yeah, I have all this together. Everybody's clean. Everything's perfect. We're totally sleeping. Yeah. Right. And then also like I was exhausted and going into work. And I will say I had a great situation where I could work part-time from home, part-time in the office. And I did have a boss that was pretty flexible with me, but then leadership changed. And that's kind of when I was like, okay, I'm not doing this anymore. And I wanted to feel good about something I was doing. Like I was sick of feeling like everything was so half-assed for me. Like I am meeting my kids halfway. I'm meeting my work halfway. I just wanted to be good at something. Turns out entrepreneurship was like that thing that could make me feel empowered And I ended up being super badass at that. And then also gave me the ability to show up for my kids guilt-free. Like, I don't have to ask anybody if I could take the day off to go take my kids to do something fun. Because I freaking want to, right? Like I decided today I want to do this, so I'm going to.
Yeah. And in all reality, like, I mean, maybe I'm throwing myself under the bus here. I don't know. But I've been on the phone with my clients driving to the beach.
Oh, hell yeah. Like that is literally, I'm like, I'm in the car right now. And then I just play it off like, you know what? Some of my best conversations happen in the car. So this is great. and truly they do, because I've made it work out of necessity.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny because I told her, the girl, and she's like been with me I want to say she's been with me like since the very beginning, and I love her. She's like a personal friend now. But I told her straight up, like, okay, so something came up and a friend came into town and I'm taking you with me to the beach. And so we kind of talked about that, and, and she totally didn't even care.
Yeah. Yeah.
But your boss might care if you're like, oh, I'm taking the day off, but we're going to the beach.
And you know what? I feel like that's so important that you're talking about this right now, because I come across so many different entrepreneurs, especially women and moms, who are like, I'm afraid, like, what if my kids yell in the background? And I'm like, listen, show up on social media, show up as a business owner with like, yeah, I have kids. Yes, they're right here. Because your ideal clients, you want them to be people who understand like that you're a mom first. And that's the one thing I've always done right. I never was in a situation where I was afraid like my clients were going to hear my kids in the background, or even like my students now as a coach. They all know like my kids jump into my lives all the time. And I'm not afraid like that's going to turn somebody off. And in fact, if it turns you off that my kids are screaming in the background, you're not the right person for me. Right.
Yes.
And I don't think enough women talk about that. Like, talk about the fact like it's okay to have chaos in your life and still show up in that way and be an entrepreneur and make money. Like, you can still make money doing that. You don't have to be afraid of that.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny because like, and I'm sure there are some coaches, mentors, consultants, etc. out there who are like, oh my God, please don't bring your kids to my office. Please don't have your kids on the line when we talk. I'm sure that exists. I have yet to encounter one though. Like, right. So the person who first originally connected us was my mentor, and my kids would be like flirting with her, like through the Zoom call. They'd be like, hey. So she like knew my kids. She's not a parent. And, she even was like open, like, I don't really think I want to be a parent, but your kid is super cute. Like she didn't care. And, I've had clients who are like, yeah, and you've probably had this as well. Like, yeah, I mean, I'm trying to make this whole business thing work. I'm also trying to mom and like shower on a regular basis. And, like you said, keep your kids clean and fed and healthy and alive and all that. So I just don't know if I don't know if I can do both things, because I can't get on, because here's the thing. Anytime you get on the phone, it's like, there's this little like internal like universal light switch that goes on, and it's like, oh, mom just flipped the switch. It's time to be noisy. Yep. So I feel like a lot of parents, a lot of moms are like, I can't do it with my kids at home, but I can't get my kids to not be at home, obviously, because they're the work at home mom. And
right.
So I don't know. Have you ever had anybody like tell you that, and then you're like, oh, I don't care if I hear your kids in the background?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So I will say that I feel like a lot of my my ideal clients and my ICA, the people that I've attracted have happened to be moms. And it's because they've been able to watch me grow a business with 2 kids, with a baby strapped to my back. Right. And that makes them feel like, okay, if she can do it, I can do it. And I love that. And so often I'm getting on the phone with people that are saying like, I wanted to work with you versus this other coach over here, because like, I see you doing it with your kids in the background, and that's amazing. And I want to be able to do that. There's a caveat to all of this. I have to create boundaries around work and parenting. And that's for both my health and my kids' health. I don't want my kids to just constantly see me on my computer and on my phone. I want them to know like when I'm doing that stuff, I am working, and there's time for them too. And that's when I unplug and I shut everything off and I'm spending time with them. I actually found that setting those boundaries for myself required daycare. And it honestly just created like a really healthy relationship with me and my kids, because I love my business and I love like serving my people and showing up for my clients and meeting all these new people and getting opportunities like this to speak on your podcast. I couldn't do all of this with them right on top of me.
Right.
There was a time where I could, and I did manage it the first year. But now that I have a 2 and 3 year old, it's like they're just way too wild. They're way too wild, and daycare is good for them. They do so well there. So I often tell my students, and I often tell any clients that I've worked with, try to create some boundaries for yourself, even if it starts out. I mean, honestly, I started out daycare 2 half days, 2 4-hour periods, just to give myself a break to really like dive in, do the things I had to do quietly. Like, you can't do everything with kids around. You can't maybe record an e-course or jump on a podcast. Some podcasts are like, yeah, have your kids in the background. Who cares? I personally just don't feel like my kids are just way too loud. I just would be super distracted by it. But I've seen it before. So it's not like it's totally out of the norm. So it's about setting boundaries and giving yourself time to dive into really what you want to do. And that's usually the advice I give them. Like, find 4 hours every single week where you can be kid-free and focus on you, because it's good for you too.
Yeah, it really is. That's exactly how I started. 4 hours once a week. And I would do, so back in the day, the Moms Making Money show was, on Facebook, and it was a live interview once a week. So every Thursday morning, we had somebody who we love come in, and she would hang out with the kids. And she had allotted 4 hours in her schedule because she too is an entrepreneur. And that worked in my budget at the time of having a new business. And it took me a good 6 to 8 months to give myself permission to do this, though.
Right. Oh, that's such an important piece.
Yeah. It was like right on the time that, I was like feeling like, okay, burnout is like imminent at this point. Even though at first I was like, oh, I got my superhero cape. It is never going to happen to me. I'm not going to be one of those ladies who allows themselves to get burnt out. Wrong. You are not immune. But yeah, I started with 4 hours a week. I would do the podcast. So it was super funny. I would get ready, hair and makeup, and then I would go out and spend, an hour in the sun, sweating my ass off, working with my horses.
Oh my gosh.
With lipstick. But that's how it started. And now, now that the boys are both old enough, one's in kindergarten and the other one goes to preschool, they thrive there. It's like the way I look at it. So for anybody, and you can probably relate, the way I look at it for anybody who's struggling with I'm a quote unquote stay-at-home mom, it's my job to watch the kids and blah, 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 because I did that. For me, it's an educational play date. Yeah. They're learning stuff. They're having a blast. They're playing with their friends. They're, doing actual educational things. And I'm having that, like you said, 4 hours a day or so of absolute quiet time to sit and focus, because that's when stuff really gets done, instead of like 10 minutes here. Oh, I'm going to go do this with the kids. 10 minutes here. It's like you lose your focus and like all the thoughts stop flowing when you break that focus.
Right. Right. And you know what? I love that, like, educational play date. I can tell you 100%, if my kids were always home with me, they would not be nearly as smart as they are. Where my kids go to daycare, it's basically a preschool setting. They're actually in the process of becoming a preschool. And oh my gosh, it's like my son last night, he's 3, and he's like drawing the American flag and saying, "Mom, we live in America." And it's like, what? Oh, right. Okay. Yeah, sure. We certainly do, buddy. Like, I've never had that conversation with him. I've never been like teaching him geography. And he brings home like these things where he's able to write his name already. And I'm like, whoa, this is stuff I probably would have never done. I would have never sat down and focused on it. especially trying to grow a business, I would have been like, here, play with this really quick while I do this.
Right.
Like, and not giving him the attention they deserve. So it's honestly been, it's been an amazing decision. So any moms out there that are listening and going through that, like, oh my gosh, I really do want to be able to focus on my business, but I feel so guilty putting my kids in daycare. I always tell everybody, like, think about what you get to tell your children in the future about this empire that you created. Like, you had to make sacrifices, but you got to do the thing you wanted to do and be the person you wanted to be, despite the challenges, despite the decisions that you had to make. And you can actually get to show them, like, you can be anything you want to be. And I remember growing up thinking, like, yeah, everybody says that you can be what you want to be, but you can't really. Like, you can't really, because there's all these things that are going to be in the way. And it's definitely like a small dreams, small town mindset. But now I 100% believe, like, I can tell my kids without a doubt, you can be anything you want to be. Like, with enough hard work, like, you can literally do whatever you want to do. Right? I would have never believed that until I actually dove into this business and started achieving the things I wanted to do.
Yeah. And it just takes trying it. And that's what, I had like this really, like, I don't know, I was nervous to even have the conversation with my husband, like, well, I'm taking on this new chapter in business and I'm really growing and, I'm going to make this big investment. And that's going to require me, in order to get the return on that investment, I'm going to have some dedicated work time. And he's like, yeah, but I think men are so much more logical because they think with their actual brain instead of like fully emotional all the time.
Right.
Especially, fully emotional postpartum women. Like, and he's like, yeah, it's no big deal. Just see if Matthew can get in at Easton School because they go to a private Montessori school. And I'm like, oh, really? You don't care? And he's like, no, I don't care if your dream is to grow this business. Because I have this amazingly supportive husband. He's like, if your dream is to grow this business, he's like, get on it, woman. Like, hurry up, let's get going, and then I'll retire. I'm like, okay.
Right. Yeah, I can totally relate. Tim's also like amazingly supportive. And, when I first started the business and the struggles that I went through, and it like, things got tight. Things got scary when we first started. And I was actually offered jobs. Like, I had people that were like, well, you could have this controller position. And I come from an accounting background. So I worked as a CFO and, I quit that. I quit what could have been somebody's like ideal job. And then people were offering me other jobs and making more money and all the benefits and all of the things. And I would tell Tim, I'd be like, listen, hon, I got this opportunity. I was offered this job. And he would be like, no, I think you can make more money than that. And I was like, what? You do? Like, it was crazy to hear him say that and hear him believe in me, because at that time he probably believed in me more than I did. But ultimately, like, heck yeah, that was the best decision for us.
Yeah, it's funny because my husband came home from work and we had met through working in the same industry. And he goes, babe, I heard them talking about you at work today. And I was like, why? What? He goes, they need a project manager. I'm like, well, I guess I could help them, but I could only work super part-time and only from home. And he goes, yeah, I don't think that's going to work. Especially once I was like, and it's still going to be 6 figures.
Yeah. And I still need to make 6 figures, super part-time.
Well, yeah, I mean,
super from home.
Yeah, exactly. And he goes, yeah, I'm pretty sure they would want you to come into the office. I'm like, do you know how far it is to drive there? And he goes, yeah, I drive there every day. I'm like, yeah, I can't do that. I can't. No, thanks.
No way. No way.
Yeah, no, it's so funny. So let's talk about, you have been blessed with an amazing partner in life and 2 amazing kids. What were some of the actual struggles that you feel like you really had to overcome to get from, Alyssa on day 1, I'm going to do this. I'm not asking permission from my boss to be with my kids when they need me anymore, to where you are now, multiple 6 figures and helping your clients get to the 6-figure mark?
Wow. So some of the major struggles I had were, probably a lot to do with mindset, honestly. Like, a lot of it was Can I do this? Am I capable of doing this? A lot of imposter syndrome. That was huge for me. I remember it felt like every other week I would go through this lull, this downtime where I'd be like, oh my gosh, what if I can't do this? What if I can't do this? And it's so funny now because I'm such a strategist that it was basically like as soon as somebody helped me and gave me some of the strategies, and I like dove into everything I possibly could around business. As soon as I had the strategies, I got over the imposter syndrome, which was awesome. Finally. And you know, I still like, I'm not immune to it now, even now, earning more money than I ever thought I would in business. I still go through these times where I'm like, am I capable of getting to the next level? Is this going to stay consistent? Like we still have like that voice in the back of our head is so loud. It's so obnoxious. And I'm like, can you please stop? Just stop. I'll be fine. Everything's going to be fine. So it's probably that. And also a lot of what we talked about with the time management of my kiddos, like, you know, I did this thing where I quit my job to be with my kids. And then I was trying to get rid of my kids because I wanted to be able to spend time working on my business and focusing on my business. So that was an internal struggle. And I had to, as you say, give myself permission to let go of my kids a little bit and say like, no, you can go to daycare while I focus on this thing. I don't think I had like the traditional struggles of actually finding clients. I happen to be really great at like just getting myself out there and networking the hell out of my community, showing up on social media, and I did all of the coffee dates. I did all of the free talks. I did all of the lunch and learns. I did anything I could to get myself in front of people and have people listen to me. And that helped me grow exponentially so fast. And it was shocking to be in business for 4 months and be earning, you know, 20K plus already. And it was like, whoa, I just did this. Like, how did this even happen? And now my job is to really analyze how that all happened. And I made it happen again when I moved into the coaching industry, which was truly out of, again, necessity. Like I saw a space in the coaching industry that wasn't being met, where people were talking about showing up organically and nurturing an audience without like jumping into their inbox and doing all the direct outreach and doing the cold emails and buying the email lists. So it was just coming at it from a different space. And also, you know, no one's me. And any entrepreneurs and all you mompreneurs out there, no one is you. There's people like you and they're doing maybe similar things, but no one is you. No one's going to show up the way you do. And so it was just that, like, I'm a mom who has 2 kids. I've been able to figure this out, and I can show other women and men, I do have men clients as well, how to do this same exact thing.
I love that. And I love that. I feel like a lot of people talk about, and I've even seen it lately, like on social posts and different things, that I don't have a rags to riches story. I don't have this major like trauma that I had to overcome to get people to buy my product. And I didn't have that either. You know, I came from a job that I actually really liked with a boss who I still am in communication with because I actually really liked. And it wasn't this big traumatic thing.
Yeah, no. And that is, I wish that I had like, you know, I don't wish that. I actually think that my story was great. The way that it happened for me was awesome. But I know it was hard work. It wasn't like, oh, I was lucky. And I've heard that too. That's like the one thing you don't ever say to an entrepreneur is like, you're lucky it grew so fast. Like, what? I'm sorry. Can you need to go away. Please just take a step back for me. It wasn't luck. It was just grit and tenacity. Like I also didn't have a choice. Like I see other people, they're trying to grow a business, but they have options, right? Whether somebody's helping them out financially. I have always been financially independent since I was 18 years old. I moved out of my house when I was 18, got my own apartment. And so having this financial independence, and for the first time I wasn't making money on my own, was like my own personal hell. And I had to make money. Like I had to bring some in because I just am not, I wasn't wired that way to be okay with it. So I gave myself no option. And that's often what you got to do. You give yourself no option and say, I have to make this work. I have to keep moving. I have to talk to as many people as I can to figure this out. I have to read all the books, all the free podcasts, all the YouTube videos, whatever I can get my hands on. And that's what I did. I mean, I'm on my lawn listening to like Mike Michalowicz audiobooks. Like that was, I just engulfed myself in it. So it wasn't luck. It was just that I gave myself no option.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think a lot of people, they don't really see it that way. They're like, well, I'll give it a try. And if it doesn't work out, then I guess I'll just go back to work or whatever. Right. Instead of like, no, this has to work. This is going to work, not try to work.
Right. Right. And that is big for me because I knew I had to make it work because I could not go back to work for somebody. That sounded horrible. Like there were times where I considered it because it was like, well, I'm being offered a job and I'm not really making a lot of money right now. So maybe I should. And that was very early stages, like first probably 6 weeks of actually saying like, all right, I'm going to do this. And it's funny because even, I talk about Tim and how supportive he's been. I quit my job and I called him sobbing in the parking lot. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm sorry, but I just quit my job. And he's like, it's okay. We'll figure it out. Like you want to start a business anyways. So let's just do that. We thought that you'd be starting that maybe in a few months, but we just do it now. And I was like, okay, all right. Thank you for not freaking out because I'm freaking out.
Right. Oh. It is a scary thing. And I don't think everybody's meant to be an entrepreneur. It's just not the desire of some people. And I think that's totally okay.
Yeah.
I also think that it is the lifestyle of being an entrepreneur. And, because we don't necessarily, unless we create our own, we don't necessarily have any sort of structure, if you will. Like, you have to find what works for you from nothing. And that's where, mentors and coaches and consultants come in. Mm-hmm. But, it's not for everybody. Not everybody is going to understand what you're doing, why you're doing it, and and how hard you're actually working. Somebody who's never taken a chance before to start up, they have no idea what those struggles and those disbeliefs in yourself and even your abilities, those will come into play where you're like, I was really good at my job, but can I really do this?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's you make a good point about like people not understanding how hard it is and how hard you're working. And no one's there to really pat you on the back and say like, good job.
Right.
Like you're doing such a great job. There's no like, oh, we're going to give you a raise because you're doing so good. And thank you so much for doing that. There's no one at the other end of the table to look at the cool thing that you just created. And quite often, especially in this world of like the online space, it's like a whole other universe that you can't even explain to people. They're like, wait, so what do you do? Exactly. I don't even understand this industry. I've never even heard of this. People pay you? And I'm like, yeah, all the time. Like, I didn't know this existed before I started it either. But so you have to just like chug along with knowing that what you're doing is going to pay off for you. Mm-hmm. And that's all that's important. It's going to pay off for you. It's going to pay off for your family. But you have to be okay with, patting yourself on the back and saying like, dude, you killed it today. Nice job. I mean, even Tim will message me sometimes at like noon and be like, did you just wake up? And it's like, dude, no, I didn't just wake up. I've been awake since 6:15. I got your kids ready. I got them to daycare by 8 a.m. I went and worked out. And I had to get on a Zoom call, and then I had this meeting, and then I had this, and then I created this other thing. And it's only noon, and I did all that already. So nope, didn't just wake up.
That's so funny.
And he's totally kidding. He's totally kidding. He knows that I don't ever wake up at noon. But it's so funny when he sends me those messages and I'm like, oh my gosh, if you only knew all the things I've already done today, you should just be constantly sending me like, hey, you're doing a great job messages instead.
Right. Absolutely. It's hard work. It's not easy, you guys. And I'm not saying that, having a job's not easy either. So, you have to learn things, you have to grow, you have to expand, you have to, you didn't just start off as a CFO, right? You had to work your way through, you probably did accounts payable, accounts receivable, probably payroll, all the things. And then you were like, okay, I've got all this experience plus my education and I'm basically the best. So now I'm the CFO. The same thing is true with business. I don't know too many people who started on day one and then they're like, oh, I earned $1 million on my very first day. I've yet to meet somebody with that story. If you're listening and that's your story, let us know.
Yeah, please. Can I hear your story also?
Yeah, because the two of us will interview you together. And but there is work that goes into it, and there's a lot of work that goes into it. There's a lot of strategy. There's a lot of, all the things, setting up your systems and integrations and all that stuff behind the scenes too.
Yeah, learning who you are. That's been huge for me. Just learning who I am and who I want to serve. I started my business thinking that I was going to work with my ideal clients were going to be like men in the trades industry. Little did I know, all the women wanted to work with me. And I was like, what? Like, what? Women want to work with me? I'm so confused because working in a corporate environment, women were not necessarily friendly as friendly as they could have or should have been.
No, women are mean. They're the mean girls.
Yeah. And you know what? I will say, since entering this entrepreneurship life and like meeting women like you, it's a whole different world. And there is a tribe of women that support other women, and it's fantastic. It's amazing. So if you are one of the women who is like hyping up your girls, keep doing it, keep going, because we need more of that.
And that means so much to so many people too.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I think it's important to say, like, even if you don't quite feel like you want to start, your own coaching, consulting, mentoring business, something, if you could find like even an MLM or something. I feel like MLMs kind of paved the way for a lot of this online space with, let me give you everything I know and see how you can make it better.
Yeah.
That is completely the opposite of any workspace. Because, at the workspace, it's like, oh, I'm not going to train you to do my job. Because what if you do it better? Then I'll get fired. Right.
It's such a competitive environment. Everybody is like holding on to their knowledge. Like I can't share. There's no knowledge sharing. And it's interesting because sometimes I'll explain to people that like a lot of my clients end up being like bookkeepers or accountants. And they're like, oh, you teach people how to grow the same exact business that you have. And I still do have accounting clients. I still have a firm running in the background. And I'm like, yeah. And they just think it totally blows their mind that I would teach my competition how to do exactly what I've done. And I was like, well, you have to believe in abundance and you have to know you're all just going to rise together. There's enough for everybody. Versus like, oh, I can't share what I do because I don't want people to get all the clients that I could have. Like, I know I couldn't even take on all the clients. Like, they're not all for me.
I was just going to say that. Yeah. Like you can only handle so many clients if you were doing, in your agency, right?
Right.
Yeah. And that's just it. You come from, I call it employee mindset. And I think it's been ingrained into all of us humans from the beginning of time, basically like, okay, well, If you're not happy with your job here, go find another job. I'll find somebody who is happy to have your job for less money. Like everybody, I think, has heard that. And I feel like that goes back generations and generations and generations, probably tens of thousands of years, really. And that's probably still true to this day in the workplace, but it doesn't have to be true in your business.
Right. I think that there's more businesses also in corporate worlds that are trying to break down those barriers and break away that competition wall. But unfortunately, it's a lot of mindset training and taking people out of their traditional thought process around knowledge sharing and my experience versus your experience, and making a company better requires knowledge sharing. It requires sharing ideas and thoughts. So if you do own a larger business and you're listening to this, keep that in mind. Try to break down those walls, encourage knowledge sharing and collaboration, because I know coming from the corporate world, I know it's very necessary.
It's very necessary. And I feel like the workplace could be so much better if people treated each other in a different way. I feel like that's one of the reasons that I respect still like my former boss so much, is because he acted more like a mentor. Like, don't get me wrong, if there was a need for it to step up and act like a boss, he definitely got his bossy pants on, but he wanted to mentor us. He wanted us to be self-thinkers. He wanted to train us to help him in a way that, helped make his load a little bit lighter and a little bit easier. Yeah. And I feel like that's the way that we should all treat each other.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's very cool that you had that experience. That's amazing. I feel like not a lot of people get that. And I talk with a lot of different people who are in corporate America and living a corporate life, and they are trying to leave and become entrepreneurs and are mulling around the ideas because they're not in an environment like that. And they see other women empowering women, and they're like, I want to be part of that. I want to be in that circle. So, if you can, harness and nurture an environment and cultivate an environment in your business that helps people empower each other, then people wouldn't be leaving, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so true. Tell us a little bit too. I know we could probably talk about all of this stuff all day long.
Right.
Tell us a little bit about what exactly you do in your business. I know that you have a strong accounting background, former CFO, and you work with a lot of bookkeepers, but you also do a lot more than that.
Yeah. So I pulled out of my accounting business. I grew my accounting business first, and I found myself constantly being asked, how did you grow your accounting firm so quickly? How did you do this? I want to do what you're doing. I'm inspired by you. And I loved helping all these people that were asking me, and I consistently would help them. I would give them information on how I grew, and this is what I did, and this is where I went. And I was doing all of that for free for so long. And at one point I realized that I was enjoying that much more than actually doing the accounting work. I had been in the accounting industry for 12 years, and I was kind of getting sick of looking at books and analyzing numbers. And I was like, maybe this is where I was meant to be. And I've always considered myself a leader and a coach. I actually coached sports. I was a soccer coach, and really like to empower women. I came from nonprofit background, working for a YWCA. So empowering women was huge for me anyways. It's just part of my brand, my person. And I found myself able to do this so much more when I was taking on these consulting or coaching clients. I didn't even really know what I was doing. I just knew that I needed to help these women who were inspired by me do what I was doing and make money that they could make and they deserved to make because they were working so hard. So I developed over time a program called 6 Weeks to Six Figures, and it basically outlines exactly the steps I took to start earning 20K months. And quite frankly, it's the same exact steps that I use now to achieve 60K months. It is, developing a high value offer, nurturing your audience in a way that feels good to you so you can show up for them without having, fear or like, I hate doing this thing. Like, what feels good to you and how can you show up for people consistently? And you're going to love it, and you're going to enjoy it and see the progress that you're making, as well as learning sales and learning the psychology around sales. Why do people buy? When do they need to buy? And kind of releasing the stress around sales too. Like, don't think when somebody says no to you, it means that it's always going to be no. It's no for now, and maybe they'll be back. And quite frankly, most of the people that I sell to are people who have been in my network for quite a while, and they come back over time. Like, they probably got on a phone call with me 2 months ago, and they weren't ready to invest, but they see me continue to show up, and then they come back because they still love and trust me. So it's all the things, all the social media, all the sales, all the marketing, all those fun things.
All the things that when I said earlier that you sit down and you have to implement all these different things from scratch. Mm-hmm. Those are the things.
Yeah. And it's just been so much fun. I didn't know how much I actually loved marketing and sales until I really did it. And organic marketing has been huge for me. And for those of you who don't understand the language around organic marketing, organic simply means that I am building an audience and selling to people without any paid advertising. I've never paid for ads. I've never had to do that. And I'm actually in the process of doing that. I'm building a funnel, and I'm going to go ads now, but that's because I know so well what my ideal clients are. I know how to talk to them. I know how to make them feel something so they want to learn more about me and learn what I do. But I did that all free. Like, I didn't have the budget to go ads when I started my business. So organic was like, that was my jam. And I love talking to people. I love connecting and learning about people. So organic marketing has been super fun. And the whole caveat around me and the differentiator is I don't teach direct outreach, and I curse a lot.
Well, that's probably why I like you so much.
Probably.
Yeah. And I think one thing too, that if we go back, you talked about like sales psychology and some of those things. If you go back into, this may not fit quite in the psychology category, but if you go back to like when we were cavemen, people had to be part of a tribe. They had to be part of a community in order to survive. It is instinctually in our DNA to want to be part of something, to want to be part of a community or tribe of some sort. And I don't feel like a lot of people feel that way in the workplace. Like, I hate to say it, but I think that can be true unless the workplace has been cultivated in a way that really, speaks to that.
Exactly. And even when they try to build some of those tribes, it often ends up being what you might call like cliquey is probably the word that I feel like I've been out of the workplace for so long, even though it really hasn't been that long, that I'm like,
it's been long enough.
It's been long enough where I'm like, I remember it being like cliquey. I remember feeling like there were little cliques of people and they had their little tribe, and I wasn't part of that tribe. Or here's the thing for me, I connected so much better with men in the workplace than I did with women, that it's shocking that I ended up like, oh my gosh, it's crazy to me that I work with so many women now, because, I was went through this journey of like just trying to make women not hate me. Like, please don't hate me. I know that I'm smart and I'm kind of cute, but I'm fun too. Like, please.
Yeah, you're like, I'm awesome, I swear. Yeah, no, I totally agree. My background is power line construction, so mostly men most of the time, and I really liked it. I mean, I did work with plenty of women, but I really liked working in that kind of masculine environment, which was like, I think that was almost like a mindset block for me when I transitioned over into mentoring women.
Yeah.
And I actually surprised myself how much I really loved working with other women and seeing them shine.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. But I have to say something funny. So some of my background is also working with power lines. It was utility line clearance. So I worked with mostly men, and I enjoyed that. And that's probably why I curse a lot because some of my first jobs were in the arms industry, all men. And then I went into utility line clearance, all men. And then I started working for a YWCA, which gave me the I want to empower women, that like thing in my gut where I was like, yes, this is amazing. I love this.
Yeah. And I think it just takes trying. It just takes, and that's going to be a lot of different things in business. It just takes seeing if something works and how it feels before you know whether you like it or not, whether it's strategy or technology or the work itself.
Yes. So I was actually just having a conversation about that today too. Like everybody has this big talk about like passion, like you got to do whatever you're passionate about. Sometimes we don't know what our passion is, and that's okay. You just got to keep making the moves and figure it out. Like, just take action on something. Don't sit and wait for like, there's not going to be like this big screen that shows up in front of you one day. I mean, maybe it will, but it's like, this is your passion. This is what you should be doing. I had no idea this is where I was going to land. And I have no idea where I'm going to land in, even months from now, year from now. I have no idea. Like, I will continue to pivot and do what feels amazing to me. I teach organic marketing now, but shoot, who knows? Maybe in a year, I'll be teaching people how to do ads, like just keep moving, keep taking action on whatever it is that you're loving at the time. And eventually things will flow for you.
Yeah, I love that. And I think my tip that I give to anybody, and you can definitely give your thoughts on this, is if you are trying to figure out what it is that you're passionate about, go ask your friends. Go ask them, what is the thing that you can't shut up about?
Yeah.
And they'll tell you. They'll tell you with love. They'll tell you.
Yep. The thing that you can't shut up about. I totally agree. And like, what is it that you're doing for free right now? Like, what are you doing for free all the time?
Yeah. What do people come to you for?
Yeah. Yeah. What do people think you're good at? Because, and that's how I got to, so there was a time where people came to me for a bit like accounting advice, financial advice, tax advice. That's what they wanted from me. And I could give them information about that. Eventually it turned into people were coming to me, asking me all the time for business advice. Like, how did you grow your business? What did you do? How did you, do this? And so it was like, oh, okay, well, I'm doing this more and I really love this and I'm doing it for free. So I'm going to change. Mm-hmm. And that's like a big thing about, I also push people to like self-brand. I'm like, just brand your name for now, because you're probably going to pivot numerous times. And don't be like me, learn from my mistake. I had to change everything when I changed my business because it was all about accounting and finance. And so I had to basically like lose all of that stuff to get rid of that brand. Like, I didn't want people asking me accounting questions anymore. So I had to just like let all that stuff drop off the face of the earth. So now I'm actually branded as just like Alyssa J, Dillon, Inc. And I'm happy with that. Like this gives me the ability to be anybody I want to be.
Right. I totally agree with that. I absolutely agree. And when you really get the little spark, like in your heart, you can feel it when you've got that, like, all right, I really want to do this. I really want to do this, whether it's buying a new car or starting a new business, whatever that is. I think women are really in tune with knowing when they really want to do something or they,
Yeah.
So follow that, you guys. That's like the universe or God or whatever it is that you believe in.
Yep.
I'll call those nudges. Like they're nudging you in the right direction. They're nudging you into your path of, destiny. So follow that stuff, you guys, definitely.
Yeah. And the nudges that you feel the nudges, and just because it's hard doesn't mean that you're not following the right path. And this is what I have to explain to people so often is they're like, well, you grew the accounting business, but then when you grew your coaching business, like that seemed to happen so easy for you. And it was like, no, it was actually really hard to pivot. It was really hard to shift because I had to get people to believe me. Like I had to build believability and social proof so people knew I was capable of helping them. And that was not easy, even though it was what I was being called to do. I was like, I have to do this. I'm giving away this advice for free and people want it for free, but are people willing to pay me for it? How much do I even charge for something like this? There were so many things. I came from a need business. People need an accountant. People need somebody to help them with taxes and get their books in order. People have to have a desire to grow their business and hire a coach. You don't need that. It's not like the IRS is coming to hunt you down because you didn't hire a business coach, right? Going from a need-based business to somebody has to have desire to want to work with me was very challenging. And it made me question if I was doing the right thing numerous times. But I kept following that nudge. I kept following, like, everything in my stomach says I can't go back to accounting. I know I can't work for somebody else. So this is it. Like, you got to make this work. And I did.
Yes.
Because I love it now. It's amazing. I'm so happy that I ended up here. Where accounting, it was, like I said, I was just getting burnt out. I was like, man, I don't want to open my computer today to look at a QuickBooks file.
Mm-hmm.
No, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And that makes absolute perfect sense too, because, I like QuickBooks and I use it and I love it and it takes really good care of me, but it's not something I think that I would love to look at all day, every day anymore.
No, especially doing it. I mean, I did it for 12 years. Like I was 18 and got my first accounting job and had an associate's degree in accounting. That was like the first thing I did. So, for doing it that long and looking at numbers and looking at balance sheets and P&Ls, and it just got to be like, I don't want to talk about this stuff anymore. It's just, I have the knowledge. Yeah, I'm good at it, but I am over talking about it. I would rather talk about something else. So, it was exactly where I was meant to be, but I wouldn't have known that if I didn't get through all that hard stuff too. Like all the hard stuff of growing the accounting business and getting it to where I wanted it to be and making the money I wanted to make. And then that was another huge, like, super supportive Tim for the win, because I was like, hey, babe, I actually decided I'm going to do something different. And he was like, what? So it took him actually a little while to like believe my income because, I shifted. I like started a new business. So he was like, all right, but how long are you going to do this? I'm like,
right.
I'm like, we'll be fine. Don't worry.
I love that. Well, I know we could talk all day, but tell us before we hop off of here, where can everybody find you? Where can everybody connect with you and get to know you a little bit better?
Yeah. So Facebook is a great place to connect with me. I'm on there right now as Alyssa J. Dillon, Profit Growth Strategist. I also have a free community, unfiltered, organic marketing. And it's just a community where I curse, like I said, I curse at you and tell you to stop being lazy in your business and get shit done and move forward and take massive action. So you can have this success like I have, because I know everybody's capable of it. It's just, do you have the tenacity? Do you have the grit to do the things, do the hard things and power through? So everybody is welcome to join me right over there. And I'll give you the links for those, of course.
Perfect. We'll put those right into the show notes. All right, everybody, make sure you hop over, show her some love, get your questions answered, because let me just tell you, I still think that we need you. So I still think there's a total need here, you guys. So she's amazing and so much fun to be around and so much fun to just interact with and really share the space with of growing a business, being a mom, and being a total rock star. So thank you so much for sharing your story and sharing all of your amazing words of encouragement and awesomeness with our listeners today. It's been so much fun.
Thank you